Hello dear students, so today we have reached to the third part of the chapter Reproduction in Organism. Here we will discuss today about sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is a kind of reproduction that occurs between two individuals, a male and a female. This reproduction involves meiosis, that is, half of parental chromosomes inside the male and female gametes, and their subsequent fusion resulting into restoration of original parent number chromosomes. This sexual reproduction cause increased in genetic diversity. Now here you can see there are two male gametes. There are two gametes which are required for sexual reproduction. One will be from male and another will be from female. So in sexual reproduction, it involves production of male gametes and female gametes. And finally, these male and female gametes get fused to form the zygote. If we talk about sexual reproduction, when two opposite types of gametes are produced within the same individual, then it is regarded as bisexual organism. And when male gametes are produced from the male parent and the female gametes are produced from the female parent, the parents are regarded as unisexual organism or heterosexual organism. So we have divided sexuality on the availability of same parent, which consists both reproductive part, male and female reproductive part within the same body, or if the male and the female individuals are different. This sexuality in case of flower, we call those flowers as perfect flowers which have both stamen and carpels in them. These perfect flowers are also called bisexual or hermaphrodite flowers. Whereas if the flower is only having the stamen, that is the male reproductive part, or either carpel, that is the female reproductive part, those flowers are called imperfect flower or unisexual flowers. Now these imperfect flowers, if they consist only the male part, then these flowers are called staminate because only stamen is present. And if the flower consists only the pistil part, female part, then these flowers are pistillate flowers. So in case of plants, the male and female flowers, if they are different, the plant is called to be unisexual. This is showing you the example. Papaya plant is the best example of unisexual flower. Whereas here in the datura flower, you can see the male part, that is stamen, and the female part, which are pistil, they both are present within the same flower. So this type of flower are known as bisexual flower. Similarly, this condition also occur in animals. Animals may be also bisexual, as in case of earthworm, where the female and the male reproductive parts exist in the same body. Or in the animals, the male and female individuals, they may be separate. So in animals also we see that either the organism may be bisexual or the organism may be unisexual. Unisexual organism, they have the male and female parts and male and female parents, and in hermaphrodite organism, the male and female reproductive parts, they are within the same organism. Now, if we look at the sexual reproduction stages, that all organisms grow to a certain maturity in their life before they start reproducing sexually. This period of growth between their birth up to their reproductive maturity is called juvenile phase. Actually, we have divided the phases of the lifespan of organism, those who are sexually reproducing, into three phases: juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and senescence phase. So in juvenile phase, the organism is growing till the maturity when the organism is capable of reproducing sexually. In plants, the period of growth from the seed germination up to the initiation of flower is called the vegetative phase. So in plants we also call juvenile phase as the vegetative phase, where the seed germinate and it attains some growth or increase in height. Till this time they are called in juvenile phase. Once they start flowering, then we call them that the plant has entered into its next phase, that is called reproductive phase. The later part, when the organism start reproducing sexually, is the reproductive phase. Now, this juvenile phase may be of variable duration in different organisms. Now, like here, animals also, they have the different phases of lifespan. Those who are sexually reproducing, the childhood phase, which is known as the juvenile phase, where the body is attaining the maturity so that they can enter into the phase of reproduction, that is called the reproductive phase. And once the reproductive phase is over, the organism enters into the senescent phase, where the sterility comes or the aging starts, right? So these are the phases of lifespan in the organism, those who are sexually reproducing. Now, as we have told you that juvenile phase may be of different duration in different organisms. The juvenile phase or the vegetative phase of plants, it starts immediately after seed germination. The young seedling grows and develops root system and shoot system. The shoot system continues to develop stem and it starts developing its branches and leaves. This phase may be of variable duration in different plants. Like in mango, you can see that juvenile phase exists for 3 to 5 years, right? Whereas in case of human beings, the juvenile phase from the childhood till the reproductive maturity, it varies in males and females both. In females, this age is the juvenile phase exists for 13 to 16 years. Onset of puberty, starting of menstrual cycle, is the signal that the organism has entered into its reproductive phase. Whereas in case of males, this transition of juvenile phase to reproductive phase occurs after 13 to 15 years. At this time of juvenile phase, the flower, the plant or the organism mature itself for the process of reproduction. Now, in plants, it is very easy. In some plants, it is very easy to differentiate between juvenile phase and reproductive phase, as the reproductive phase is started or reproductive phase is shown in the form of flowering. Like in case of mango tree, once the flowers starts, that means the plant has entered from its juvenile phase to reproductive phase. Whereas in some plants, this transition of juvenile phase into reproductive phase is shown in form of development of stolons. Those plants, those who are not flowering, they are only vegetative propagating, they are showing their onset of reproductive phase in form of development of stolons or development of vegetative propagules. Like in mint plant, you can see here. Now, it is interesting to know that in the annual plants which complete their life cycle within 1 year, the annual plants flower only at the end of the season. Whereas the biennial plants, they produce flower in the second year of the growth. Now, both annuals and the biennial plants, they die after flowering. That means their lifespan get over. Thus, the annuals and biennial plants, they have very clear-cut vegetative, reproductive and senescent phases. In case of senescent phases in plants, the senescent phase is characterized by yellowing of leaves and ultimately they lead to the death of the plant. In perennial plant, whereas in perennial plants, the duration of vegetative phase varies from few years to several years. They start flowering after attaining their reproductive maturity. Then, after attaining reproductive maturity, only after few years of vegetative phase, they flower every year, either in some specific season or throughout the year. So, in perennial plant, there is no clear-cut differentiation between their juvenile, reproductive and senescent phases, whereas there is clear-cut differentiation in case of annual and biennial plants. Annual plants always flower at the end of the season, that is showing their reproductive phase, whereas in biennial plants, first year the plant is under vegetative phase, and in second year it flowers to show that reproductive phase has started, and finally once our flowering is done, fruits and seeds are formed, finally the plant enter into senescent phase, turns yellow and finally dies. So there is clear cut differentiation. Now it is interesting to know that there are some exceptional plants which flower only once in their lifetime. For example, here you can see bamboo. These bamboo species flower, they only flower once in their lifetime, and that is to nearly after 50 to 100 years of vegetative growth. This bamboo plant, it continues growing to 50 to 100 years, and after that once they flower they produce large number of fruits and finally they die. So bamboo is showing some exceptional feature. It flowers only after 50 to 100 years, and once it flowers finally it will develop fruits and will die. Another strange plant is there, that is known as Strobilanthus kunthiana or Nilkurinj, which flower these plant flowers once in 12 years. These plants flower during September to October. Now in 2006, when these plants flower in the hilly areas of Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu into blue stretches, that was the attraction for the tourist, and many tourists visit that place for to see the flowering in these specific plants. Now in plants there are some other exceptions also, that some plants that you have observed that some plants flower in winters only while the other flowers in summers. Some plants however flower throughout the year, and the flowering in various seasons is regulated by the duration of light. So during the day and duration of dark during the night, the flowering is controlled. It is because the days are longer in summer and shorter in winter. That's why the plants which are of winter season, they bloom during daytime. Now like plants, animals, they are also showing specific differentiation between their juvenile phase and reproductive phase. In animals, the reproductive phase begins with the marked changes in the external and internal morphology as well as physiology. Now, all these changes in animals are regulated by hormones and enzymes. Here you can see, like in case of human beings, when the or a human being, they transit from their juvenile phase to reproductive phase, male and female, they both show secondary sexual characters, and secondary sexual characters are controlled by hormones. So in case of human male, you will see that facial hairs they starts growing, whereas in case of females the mammary glands they start developing and the breast region starts to enlarge. So these secondary sexual characters, they are showing that the body has entered from its juvenile phase to reproductive phase. Now in all placental mammals, either they are primates or non-primates, the reproductive phase is represented by starting of puberty, and this onset of puberty is shown in form of estrous cycle or menstrual cycle. Now in human you can see menstrual cycle in females, that shows that body is ready for reproduction. Similarly in case of non-primates, estrous cycle show that the body is ready for reproduction. Now this Estrous cycle and menstrual cycle, they vary in primate, they are different from one another. How? That in menstrual cycle, which occur in primates, the menstrual cycle, it is showing that onset of reproductive maturity. But during this menstrual cycle or after the menstrual cycle, the body is capable to reproduce. For the whole life till the menstrual cycle exists, the body is capable to reproduce. Whereas in non-primates, the organism is showing capability to reproduce only during estrous cycle. One more difference is there, that menstrual cycle is controlled by the hormone called LH, luteinizing hormone. Whereas in estrous cycle, it is controlled by FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So these are the cyclical changes which are showing that the body has entered from the juvenile phase to reproductive phase. Menstrual cycle in case of primates and estrous cycle in case of non-primates. Non-primates like cow, sheep, rats, deer, dogs, tiger, etc. Now, in human beings, the menstrual cycle, as I have told you, that shows that body has entered into reproductive phase. This menstrual cycle stops. This menstrual cycle stops once the female body or once the female get pregnant. If the body starts developing a fetus inside them, the menstrual cycle stops for that time. And this menstrual cycle is again resumed after the childbirth. Once the baby is delivered, the menstrual cycle again starts in female body. Now, in the placental mammals, especially like sheep, we have seen that cyclical changes only exist in favorable season, mostly in spring season, when the conditions are favorable for the offspring to survive. So these cyclical changes, estrous cycle, occur only in favorable season, and that's why these animals are known as seasonal breeders. Whereas in case of human beings, the females, they are active for reproduction throughout their reproductive phase. There is no dependency of reproduction on the menstrual cycle. That's why they are known as continuous breeders. Now, after reproductive phase, senescent phase starts, and this senescent phase is showing certain features like senility, non-existence of menstrual cycle, and slowing of metabolism. Senility means the low mental ability during at old age. So all these features, when they start, that means the body has entered into its senescence phase from reproductive phase. Now this senescent phase is controlled by the hormones, mainly estrogen hormone in females. They triggers the onset or pause in the menstrual cycle. This estrogen hormone is also controlled by the environmental conditions. Here this diagram is showing that on tropical girls of tropical region, they have earlier menstrual cycle. Their menses starts earlier. That depends on the environmental condition. Comparatively, the girls who are living in temperate region. That's all for today. Thank you.